What's up? I'm Zach from Law by Levin, and I'm here with Alex, the CEO and co-founder of Upstream. And we are both born and raised 90s Knicks fans. We both moved down here to Florida, and we're here to talk about our new love for the Miami Heat. So Alex, why did you ditch the Knicks and go to the Miami Heat?
I've never ditched the Knicks. Never. No, I went to a game though. I went last week, 2 weeks ago.
How was that?
Knicks Heat. Knicks lost at the buzzer. But it was only 1,500 people out in the stadium. You had to wear a mask the whole time. And it was pretty awesome. But it wasn't like, it felt like a practice.
But if I know you, and I feel like I've come to know you pretty well over the last year or so, you met that guy probably networking. The guy who got you the tickets probably was a guy you met networking, and you probably met him on Upstream. Is that about right?
Didn't meet him on Upstream, but he is an Upstream early user. But no, I met him, I met him a few years ago. He runs partnerships with the Heat, and he knows I'm a Knicks fan, so that's why he invited me to the game. And he's like, you just can't wear any Knicks like stuff. So I wore, well, besides I wore like a gold Ewing jersey, which I haven't worn out yet ever. This was the first time I wore it. But yeah, we met. Someone introduced me to him, cool. And yes, it was from networking.
So one of the things I noticed about you is that you seem to always, and everyone in your orbit knows that you lead with value. People come into your orbit and you're immediately making connections for them and helping their businesses with almost no expectation that it'll come back to you. And that, I think that style of giving has become like one of the defining ethos of Upstream, is that everyone's on there trying to help each other. And it's almost like an extension of who you are. Yeah,
no, it definitely is. And that's also why, attracted to you early on is felt that you had a similar vibe. You were doing the same thing. You're helping me, wasn't looking at the hours or whatever. If I had a question, I'd hit you up and you're just like, hey, here, happy to help, and introduced me to people. So, very similar, whether it was playing basketball or, introducing me to your friends there, or, just generally getting our families together. Just felt like, we were sort of in the same mindset.
Cool. I felt that way too. And I think one of the other interesting things about us, and one of the ways we've been able to work well together, is that we have a very open line of communication. So like when you and I are in the middle of a deal, we'll spend a lot of time thinking about who between you and me is the right person to deliver messages. And I think there's a lot of trust between us. Like we'll deliver a narrative that we want to go out to like customers or investors, and be like, hey, I'm the best person to deliver this message to this investor. Zach, you're the best person to deliver. And I think we've had a good collaboration in that sense.
Yeah, no, I mean, I usually start off like, okay, this is generally the different approaches you can take. And then, sometimes if it's like a rejection thing or if it's whatever, and like, okay, it should come from me because, sort of the buck stops from me. If someone was delivering this message to me, I'd want to hear it from the founder or whatever. Sure. And then, also in the tough stuff, I get to push on you. So it's very helpful.
Yeah, and I think that's something you and I talk about a lot, is like, sometimes we have to be, like, you and I are both naturally, I think, try to be good people and try to be kind to everyone that comes on our network, but sometimes we're also running a business and sometimes we have to the buck stops with us and we have to deliver bad news. And I think we've been supportive in each other, like trying to work with each other when we have to deliver bad news.
Yeah, and I think also one of the great things is like, usually map it out. Like even one of the docs that like, when we were doing like pro rata, you're like, this is, if you want to be stingy, if you want to be like, if you want to be nice. And I usually go with the nice one. But at least you paint it out of what you can do. So I always appreciate that. I've accidentally someone wanted to see the cap table, so I forwarded the doc to them, forgetting that it said stingy and nice, and they realized it was the nice one, so they're like, oh, thank you. So it also made me look good.
Yeah, well, maybe we did that on purpose to let people know that there was a stingy way to do it, because they wouldn't even, like, a lot of people wouldn't even known that there was a stingy way to do it. So maybe they appreciate that little peek behind the curtain.
But just giving that color is helpful, because I always tell people, like, starting a company, whatever, you really need to have a lawyer, I usually send them your way. I even sent someone like yesterday to you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. And I'm like, you may think, oh, you can get your cousin's uncle who like, heard about Facebook IPO a few years ago, and they can go and like do your stuff, but likely they'll set you up for years of annoying, and you'll have to redo the whole thing, and that usually is what happens. So you'll spend all this money and then it'll be flushed down the toilet. And I tell everyone, you need a lawyer, no matter how well you think you could handle Stripe Atlas or whatever. Like, don't mess it up.
Something surprising some people wouldn't know is like, you are a very, I think, accomplished founder. A lot of people look to you as a mentor and an advisor. But when you and I had first connected, you had accumulated a little bit of like, and a term that's common is technical debt. I'd say it's like legal debt, because you just felt like you didn't have that with your previous law firms and lawyers. You didn't have that open relationship. So there's topics you just didn't want to bring up because of cost issues, and things just sort of sat there, and you didn't really get a chance to clean them up until we met. And so I feel like this is
very true. I mean, we had, I won't name names or anything, but we had, big law firm A, big law firm B. We had like 2 or 3 law firms that we went through. And it felt like every time we would want to talk to them or sneeze on them, we'd get like a $5,000 bill. And, we were going through, potentially selling our last company, and we had like 2 conversations with them about like the options, and it was already like a 10 grand bill. And we're like, we're not gonna even be able to afford the legal services to actually even sell our company. So I was like, this is not sustainable. We have different, they're just looking at us as like, okay, how many hours can we bill? Like we were supposed to have a conversation with them, and it was a 30-minute conversation, but they needed to do 2 hours of research. I'm like, wait, why? I could go do the research. It's like, why do you, I mean, obviously you have a law degree and stuff like that, which makes, the reason. Well, not you, but I was talking about them. But the idea being that like, we're like paying for your expertise. So why are you doing, it's not like a complicated thing we're having a conversation about. So anyway, what ended up happening was a lot of the decisions, this is on me, but also I felt like I needed to do it to protect the company to some degree, is that we just started to not ask them certain questions. And that ended up making things probably more annoying down the road. So when we moved over to you, like we needed to clean some stuff up, and that took time and energy and attention from other things that we probably should have been set up properly in the beginning. For sure. Like we never properly gave out options and stuff like that. Like it's like serious stuff. Yeah, sure. Like we granted them, but we didn't really properly whatever. So that was really helpful, and then it didn't feel like we were going and bankrupting a company just by talking to you.
For sure. And I think one of the other reasons, and like one of my metrics, if a founder is really going to be able to get this done, because like you have to conquer so many different areas or become really good at so many different areas of a business, right? You're talking with accountants, lawyers, marketing, product, community development, right? You're tackling a lot as a founder. And one of the first transactions we did together is M&A, which is one of the most complex areas of negotiation in law. And I think what really impressed me about you is, and you had never been through an M&A process before, but I gave you a set of parameters. I said, Alex, if you want to go through this M&A process, but not bankrupt yourself in the process and like come out like actually ahead with like a good cash out of this thing, here's the points that you need to go win. And you came back to me in 2 weeks and like, hey, won all these points. What do we do next? And that to me was like, at least was an aha moment for me. Like, wow, this guy can take information that he's never heard before, synthesize it, and go execute on it. And I think that's...
No, thanks. I mean, we didn't really have another option. It was like, we either were going to shut down the thing. It was making money, but like we wanted to go focus on Upstream, and it would be nice to have a little bit of cash, from the stuff. And, listen, if we were working with really anyone else, we probably wouldn't have been able to get it done. It would have been too costly. They wouldn't have given it to us straight because they would have wanted to drag it out and make a little bit more money. And they wouldn't have told us exactly what we needed to do to actually get it done in the way we needed to get it done, so there's money left over to actually do anything. Yeah. And so I don't think without you guys, we would have been able to do it.
Yeah, I'm just going to quote a price because we actually did that for $10,000, which...
I didn't want to throw out numbers, but...
I'm going to throw out... I mean, you and I sometimes talk about money openly, so I'm just going to throw out money. Like, We did that for $10,000.
I tell people that when I introduce them to you. I'm like, listen, we did this whole M&A thing. I mean, listen, it wasn't the biggest deal, but it was a few $100,000. It was cash.
There was real money.
And there was all this stuff, and did it for $10K. That's like unheard of.
That's unheard of for like the complexity of that deal. So that's pretty cool. And I think that set us up on a good foot that like, and it's something I try to do, which is, I don't think a lot of lawyers truly appreciate, I think they make what they do too important when actually your business succeeds for a lot of reasons that have nothing to do with the law. You actually just need to get the law stuff done. So I think we've been able to work together to really streamline the legal services so that we keep those costs controlled. And I think that has freed you up to run your business.
Yeah, also another thing that's been really good is that, and I've talked to Michael, my co-founder, about this, is it's just very transparent. You're not I feel like a lot of people who work with law firms, at the end of the month, they're like, or in the quarter, whatever, they're getting a bill, they're like, how the hell did the bill end up like this? And I feel like whenever we're working with you, whether it's a fundraise or this or that, it's always like, hey, this is what it should cost around, but I'll check in if we start to go over that. And that's been really helpful, because I feel like that doesn't really happen with law firms. They're like, at least, we did a few financings with other firms, and it was just like a question mark at the end. Oh, well, this is going to cost X or Y. And you were just basically like, hey, I think this fundraise, a priced round, is going to cost, 10 to 15K. When we get close to 10K, I'll check in and be like, hey, we actually have a little bit more work. This is what it's going to end up costing. That is something that I haven't seen anywhere else, and I appreciate that.
So can you tell us a little bit about what is Upstream?
Yeah, so in terms of what we're building at Upstream is we're building a professional groups product. That's actually where we're starting. High level, we really want to build like a sort of a social professional hub or platform. So the way we think about it is we want to be the sort of go-to place for all your social professional sort of needs. So we looked at LinkedIn, and a lot of people dunk on LinkedIn, they make fun of LinkedIn, but LinkedIn has done a few things really well, and there's a reason why they're the oldest active social network. It's not by accident. They've perfected sort of the digital resume. They do a solid enough job with a digital Rolodex, and I use that every day. I'm sure you use that all the time as well. But they've replaced the digital. They are the digital resume. They've replaced the CV, but they dropped the ball on a few things, and we're going one by one and going after those things, because they really have a monopoly in social professional, and we want to play in that. We think there's room for more players. So the first thing that they've really dropped the ball on is a groups product, like LinkedIn groups. Well, first of all, most people don't realize LinkedIn groups is even a thing. The only time you actually experience it, or the time that most people experience it, is when you graduate college and you get added to your alumni community. But after that, basically drops off the radar. Anyone who's building a new professional community is doing it on Slack and WhatsApp and Telegram and a few other places. And that's where we felt like that's a great place to start. I love Slack, I love WhatsApp, but they're not really meant for professional community. The next place we're gonna play in is around APIs. So LinkedIn used to have an API, they killed it for a handful of good reasons, but we think there's a really big opportunity to build a proper professional professional network platform. And then the third is around, LinkedIn knows who you know. They don't know how well you know them, or they know who you've met at a certain point. They don't know how well you know them. And we think that there's a really big opportunity around strength of relationship and sort of who you know, how well you know. We think that's really the holy grail of professional networking. But in terms of the groups product, the most popular thing right now is this thing called Upstream event. And it's about a 30-minute event. It usually the first 10 to 15 minutes is a guest speaker. So it could be an investor, it could be a founder, a reporter, and they usually talk about something that's usually a topic. And then the last 15 to 20 minutes is breakout. So one-on-one video matching, you get matched up, it pulls you into a meeting, you go from meeting to meeting to meeting, one-on-one, there's a timer, countdowns, usually 5 minutes, but the owner of that community can sort of change the timing. And it works just really well. People really like it. They're 30 minutes, they're very bite-sized, but it's the value per minute is really high.
For sure. I love the event space that you've done. One of my all-time favorite events, by the way, and you were one of the first tech people I know, maybe the first tech person I know to leave New York, and you were a true New Yorker, to leave New York for Florida, and I actually followed you down here.
You did?
And one of my favorite events that you've had is with Mayor Suarez.
Yeah.
His event was fascinating. He gave out his phone number in the event.
To everybody.
To everyone. And
But it was
said,
only like 30 people. It was like, because it was a small community. It was the Miami tech community.
True.
And he gave he's like, everyone, take out a piece of paper, pen, write down my number, text me. And it was really his number.
It was really his number. And he said, like, I care that tech people come to this city and thrive. Every mayor in the world should be trying to attract tech people. And he's been true to his word. And so when people ask me, like, have you heard about the mayor? I'm like, the mayor is everything people are saying he is about, like, trying to help this community move forward.
That was a fun event. I mean, we've had some amazing ones. We've had, big investors. We had last a few weeks ago, we had Anne from Floodgate. She's on the Midas list. We had Hans Tung, who had like 9 IPOs this year. He's also on the Midas list. We've had Kirsten Green from Forerunner, Hunter Walk from Homebrew. We've had reporters like Taylor Lorenz from New York Times. We've had Anne Marie from Wall Street Journal. Next week I have Sarah O'Brien from CNN. So we've had just like some big names who come by, talk, mix in with everybody. It's super fun.
Cool. Well, Alex, I really appreciate you sitting down with us today. This has been really helpful. I have the utmost respect. I think the work you've put in, and I'll call it like a slow, deliberate build, requires so much knowledge of what it takes to build a community. It's really beautiful to watch you build a business, the patience and care you put into building your online community.
Thanks, man. I mean, we're still in the first inning, maybe even batting practice still. I mean, there's a lot we're gonna do here. Hopefully, if I'm working on this in 20 years from now, I'm gonna be a very happy person. So, I mean, there's just, this hopefully will be the thing I work on for the rest of my life. That's the goal. Cool. So, setting that up legally in the early days is really important,
Sure. Like, you represent everything I love about the startup world. You are like giving of yourself to everyone that comes in your orbit. You have a vision for where you want to take your product and you pursue it every day. You are open to exploring other apps and technologies. And it's just a pleasure to get to talk with you and solve legal problems together.
Thanks, man. I love working with you guys. And, I've always, I mean, I tell you this to your face, so I'll tell it to you on camera. Like, I really enjoyed it. And I sing your name from the rooftop to everybody I can. So, just continue to expect more introductions to more founders.
Thanks.